Welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Can you believe that it's almost August? Look, I am not one of those girlies. Actually, I am. I can't lie to you. You know, I had the thought about fall this week because I live in Northeast Ohio. So typically on average, we get all 4 seasons in the span of 1 week, pretty much every week of the year. So this week it's been a little bit chillier, a little bit windier, and I did throw on a sweatshirt yesterday to take a walk around the block. And I gotta say, I was digging it. But I'm not gonna wish away summer just yet. I am excited for the rest of summer because next week your girl's going to the Big Apple for a special event. Super excited about that. I don't actually know how much I can tell you and how much I can't tell you. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm just gonna leave it there. But, I think it's one of the most monumental moments in Bravo history, and your girl gets to be a part of it, and I am so excited. So we're going to be flying to New York on Monday for a quick little trip. And these moments are always exciting, whether it's like a Bravo con or, the Get Real event, anytime you get to talk to the people that you watch on TV. But I will say these events always make me feel like I have no sense of style. It's like I live in Northeast Ohio. I'm not needing to impress anybody on a day-to-day. Like I'm wearing sweatpants right now. We're going to Walmart in our pajamas. It's just the way that it is up here. And I can't do that when I'm going to these type of events. And I just have no idea how to dress. Truly. So I ordered like my mortgage worth of clothes that I'm going to have to send back because I can't afford to keep all that. But I'm probably not going to like any of it. And it's not here yet. And the event is next week. So, it's just another day on the job. Let's chit chat. Let's catch up. Let's dive into the top 3. Let's start with Salley Carson and Cooke, whose romance rumors seem to be hitting a new stride. So it's a Bravo crossover for the ages. We've been hearing about Kyle and Salley and Salley and Kyle and whether or not Sally's going to be on the show. Well, this kind of blew up over the weekend because Salley posted a photo of this gorgeous looking house in the Hamptons. And everybody thought that this was the new summer house because they're not going back to the old summer house. I don't know if it's still on the market, but at one point it was on the market. They're going to have to fix that door before they sell that house. But anyways, people thought, oh, this is the new house and Salley is there. Well, turns out that's not the case. Lindsay Hubbard, as she does, shut it down in the comment section and was like, no, this isn't the house. But Salley did a Q&A seemingly while she was flying home, and she got a lot of questions about Kyle. So this is what she said. Someone asked, Kyle, is it love? Is it fun? Or is it... Now, I know you guys listen to this podcast with your kiddos around, so I'm not going to fill in the blank, but you saw it. I know you did. She said 3 things can be true at the same time. When asked about when she would settle down, she said, y'all aren't going to believe me, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be so soon. Follow-up question, somebody asked her if settling down is going to occur before or after 6 months, to which Salley said it'll happen when y'all least expect it, like it could be happening now. Is Salley Carson going to settle down with Kyle Cooke? Talk about another groundbreaking headline that would be. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case. I think Kyle and Salley would be a good match. I mean, they seem very compatible. They have the same hobbies. They have the same energy. On the flip side of things, sometimes when you get 2 people together that are so similar, it's actually a recipe for disaster and could really go up in flames. I'm an eternal optimist. So I'm going to put my eggs in basket 1 to where Salley would be behind the DJ booth, raging in her crop tops and her sunglasses. Kyle would be waterfalling lover boy into her mouth, and then they'd be out until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they'd go home and recover the next day by the pool. That just seems like the type of life that I think the 2 of them could live together. Although I will say, every time I see a media headline about Salley and Kyle and they're side by side, I do get the siblings or dating thoughts. If you look at them real close together, sometimes they actually do look like they could be brother and sister. And I'm sorry to put that thought in your head because now you're never going to be able to unsee it. But anywho, headline number 2, Nic and Olandria have confirmed their split. Mostly Nic. And I was actually quite surprised when I saw this kick up on social media this past weekend because I told you last week it was a People exclusive that they announced their breakup, and people were questioning the People exclusive. They were like, we will not believe it until we hear from Nic and Olandria. I thought that was hearing from Nic and Olandria. I could be wrong, but Nic confirmed it behind a paywall. He confirmed it to his subs only that he and Olandria have in fact broken up. This is what he said. The rumors are true. I didn't want to give people false hope, so I want to clear the air. He says, we will continue to love each other always. It's a sensitive as well as a private subject. Thank you for respecting our privacy. He said, I wanted to do it on here because you guys are our biggest supporters. Olandria also did some clapping back of her own on a Dumois post. So Dumois posted a rumor. It had like a little rumor sticker in the corner that Olandria had been seeing rapper Travis Scott for some time. Well, Olandria commented on that post and said, I hope you have your lawyers ready because I have mine. But I do see Olandria dating someone of the Travis Scott caliber. You know what I'm saying? Like, after this relationship is now over, I feel like, and I know we've been shipping Sierra Miller with Michael B. Jordan, but like I see Olandria dating that type of man as opposed to Nic. And there has been a lot of chatter around Nic and Olandria's relationship. Was it real? Was it PR? Was it whatever? I shared my opinion with you last week. And here's what I will say. I got a DM last week from a blue check mark verified. Okay. Someone on the inside, someone in the know that said, Morg, that contract was up. Argue with somebody else. I'm sorry. Don't shoot the messenger. Take Andrea Denver's note from last week. There's always got to be a messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying the information I was given to you. Headline number 3. Let's talk about this week's episode of Dancing with the Stars, The Next Pro. We are in week 3, and I'm loving this show. It's live, laugh, love. It's light. It's fun. It's airy. It's giving me... I have the itch. I have the Dancing with the Stars itch. I was not invited to Dancing with the Stars Con, although is that still happening? Wasn't that supposed to happen in July? I feel like we've talked about this before, but I can't remember. But anyways, it's just a little reprieve from all of the toxicity that goes on the other shows that we like to watch around here. And I do have my 3 favorites. To me, it seems like they're in a category above everybody else, and that is Alan, Adele, and Selena. Although Selena was in the hot seat this week, which surprised me. But there was a shocking twist in the elimination this week, and somebody got eliminated. This is your spoiler warning, by the way. Somebody got eliminated because of an injury. So Stephanie Sosa, God bless her, accidentally just slapped Natalie right in the face during a group dance, and she had to go to the hospital. And long story short, she was not medically cleared to return to the competition, but they still carried on with the entire show, had the 2 teams go against each other. They had the bottom 2, which was Selena and Tristan. Now, my spidey senses were tingling that Natalie was not going to be back in the competition, but I thought they would have done a 2-for-1. They would have had Natalie go home and they would have had Tristan go home, 1 boy, 1 girl, because also if you pay attention, that's been like the cadence that they've gone down, especially this week, not that they had to have a group dance. They needed even numbers, 2 boys, 2 girls for each group, just something to, keep note of. But anyways, it was only her. Natalie was the only one. I need more information on Natalie's injury. Like, what do you mean she wasn't medically cleared? Is she concussed? She was live, laugh, love, skipping out into the dance floor to tell everybody bye. And I know looks can be deceiving, but I was like, huh. And I enjoy watching Tristan. I do. I think he's fun to watch. He's got a great vibe. I just feel bad because I feel like he's really struggling. he was already in the bottom two previously. This is the second time in the bottom two. Then, they popped in on their rehearsal and he was voted the weakest link and he's crying and I'm like, at some point you got to put this kid out of his misery. I feel bad for him. I really do. A little redemption moment for Nina in this week's episode. She's getting the reputation in the house as being pushy or bossy, maybe a little controlling. So when Nina was picked to be the team captain, she was like, I'm going to hand it off to you, AJ, which turned out to be a great choice for both of them. She got to show that she could let go of the reins, and then AJ showed that he could do something besides jive and, coordinate a group. Nina did post this though, that viral documentary sound that's going around. Well, she posted me practicing for when Hulu makes a documentary on the people who get edited as villains are actually the nicest ones on the show. So she's insinuating that she feels like she's getting the villain edit here. I would like comment from Benji and Selena, the two that were vocal about their encounters with Nina. Enter the chat, you guys. Come, feel free. Let us know what you think in the comments, Benji and Selena. I was surprised that Selena was in the bottom two this week, but I, had a feeling that she wasn't going to go home. You can kind of tell who's going to be in the bottom based on what they're focusing interview clips on. Selena talked a lot this week about feeling disjointed with her group. And, before going out, she's like, I'm just going to look out for myself. I'm just going to dance as an individual. And then you listen to Shirley's commentary, and that's what she says. She says, you danced as an individual. You weren't working together as a group. And, that leads to her being in the bottom two. So I don't know if it's going to be as obvious in the future. But yeah, I love it. Live, love, love. Dancing with the Stars. For this week's deep dive, we are going to recap the In the City finale. And how does it feel? How does it feel that 25 weeks worth of Summer House and In the City and Kyle and Amanda and Lindsay and all of it is finally coming to a close. It's July 30th. We've been doing this since February 3rd. And it's July 30th. That's crazy, you guys. That is crazy. We do need a reprieve. That's why I'm watching Dancing with the Stars, the next pro. But I'm going to go through all the big moments of part 2 of the reunion, which if you missed it, I recapped the entire part 1 of the In the City reunion. That's on the Patreon, which is in the show notes below. There's a little link-a-dink if you want to click it. We start with Danielle and Lindsay. The elephant in the room when it comes to Danielle and Lindsay is that most of Lindsay's grievances with Danielle have happened on national television. And Danielle could very reasonably say, well, I was just sharing my true and honest thoughts. That's reality TV 101. Say everything you think. But Lindsay could just as reasonably say, yes, but you're my friend. And at one point, you were my best friend. Maybe there are certain things you could say with a little more care before they're going to become a bigger storyline and maybe even a bigger headline. And that's the conversation that we've seen happen a lot between Lindsay and Danielle. It's not necessarily about what Danielle says. It's about the delivery in which she presents her feelings. And Kyle even chimes in here and says, look, Danielle, I don't think there was any ill intent, but it does start to add up. It comes down to the conversation about intent versus impact. If you're Lindsay and you're watching someone that you once trusted comment on your life season after season, I can understand how those feelings might over time compound. And maybe you forgive someone, maybe you move forward. That's their favorite phrase in all of these shows, but that doesn't mean you forget about everything that has happened. And Lindsay even hints at this when they're talking about the Carl situation that happened 6 years ago. Danielle is like, why is this being brought up 6 years ago? And Lindsay says, well, I didn't talk about it then because I was protecting you. I think another interesting thing that I took away from this reunion is that Lindsay didn't know that Danielle was going to be on the show. I thought that was interesting because the word on the street is that this was really Lindsay's show. She pitched it to the network. Whether or not that's why Carl was not on season 1, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on those types of details. But, she says, we had a list of girls first and Danielle wasn't on it. So then all of a sudden she is here. And that makes you look at that dinner scene in the pink white dress a little bit differently because Lindsay does ask, why is Owen here if he's not going to share? And Danielle says, I brought him on. And then Lindsay says, well, why are you here? So I don't know. I just thought that was a little interesting BTS, like broken fourth wall moment. Speaking of the pink dress, I understand why people are talking about it. Something about this conversation drives me nuts. Maybe it's because it wasn't Yvonne's real wedding. They had gone to a destination wedding a year before. They had the, courthouse thing with Lindsay. And I'm not one to talk because I myself had the same 3, wedding situations where we signed the paperwork, then we did it at the beach with just our family, and then we had everybody come for a big wedding. I can use the excuse that my husband's family flew in from South Africa, so we needed a little bit of time. And also, I was like the 90-day fiance thing, where if I didn't get married within 90 days, his K-1 visa would expire. But anyways, I can't believe the dress saga got reunion airtime. It's not the actual wedding, it's a dinner. Let's take a breath. Personally, I would have given a little grace to Danielle about the shade of pink because Danielle's texting everybody pictures. Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Lindsay kind of insinuates that that's an admission of guilt. If you had to text all of these people about the dress, then maybe you just shouldn't have worn it. I don't see it that way. I kind of see it as Danielle taking a Gallup poll, surveying the audience because people have different opinions. She could feel like this looks pink enough, but I just want to double check with everybody else. How many people said, no, don't wear that dress? If nobody sent that text message back to Danielle, I blame you. I blame you, Yvonne, for saying, love it, stunning. If you didn't want her to wear the dress, you should have said it when she sent you the text message. Crisis averted. Danielle and Amanda also have one of the most interesting parts of the reunion because of how it ends up relating back to Sierra. Danielle says she feels vindicated because years ago in a now infamous summer house scene, Danielle was asked, who do you trust the least out of everybody in this group? And she said Amanda. At the time, everybody was like, whoa, that's crazy. I remember Lindsay was sitting there nodding. It turned into a huge fight in the house because Kyle stood up for Amanda, called Lindsay all kinds of names. But Danielle's explanation was, I do feel vindicated because I just never knew what I was going to get with Amanda. I never knew what decisions she was going to make. And now that we're where we are, I think that Danielle actually nail on head. And Amanda even responds by saying, yeah, I can understand where Danielle is coming from because we always had this surface level relationship. I didn't give her the opportunity to know me deeper that would lend itself to trusting her in a friendship. Then Amanda reveals she texted Danielle after everything happened this season saying, I'm sorry, essentially, for judging your relationship, because now people are judging me and my relationship and there's misconceptions out there. And now that the shoe is on my foot, I understand how it feels. Amanda says watching the footage back made her realize Danielle deserved another apology. And honestly, this part made me think less about Danielle and more about Sierra. Amanda has had to confront things on both shows, Summer House and In the City. It seems like it's much easier for her to confront her actions on In the City because as far as we know, she has yet to watch the season of Summer House, hasn't watched the reunion. And I think if she hasn't watched it by now, she's probably not going to. And whenever the Summer House reunion came out, that was something that garnered a strong reaction from the audience. How could Amanda not watch these scenes between her and Sierra, where Sierra is really being the friend that Amanda needed that summer and helping her get out of this toxic relationship? If watching In the City helped Amanda see Danielle's perspective more clearly, obviously watching Summer House would have given her a different approach, I think, in coming into the Summer House reunion. Maybe it was self-preservation. Maybe she knew, it was really bad. She didn't want to relive it. I understand that. Andy, actually points that out as well. And Amanda says, I was honestly scared in that reunion. I felt like I couldn't get a word out. I still just feel like based on the history of Sierra and Amanda's friendship, Sierra was owed Amanda watching the episodes back and having a difficult and uncomfortable conversation with her. I honestly think that's the least that Amanda could have done in the situation. Let's talk about Owen. Let's talk about Owen. Owen had the most surprising segment in the City reunion to me, and I lived for it. I was not expecting this. Owen essentially says, no one prepared me for what filming for Bravo would be like. And Danielle, you should have given him the orientation. You should have told him, hey, by the way, people are probably going to poke and prod, and, that's what they do here. But what I loved about this moment with Owen is that he's calling him out. He says, if you guys want to know so much about me, why is it only when the cameras are rolling? Nobody seemed to want to have a conversation with me as soon as the cameras stopped rolling. He does say, except for Andrea and Nick. And everybody else was like, oh, well, it's because we saw how much you didn't want to talk about it on camera. I don't know about that explanation. Don't you feel like somebody would be more open to talking to you about something off camera, especially for the first time, as opposed to on camera? Clock it, Owen. Clock it, Owen. He also says he absolutely sees himself marrying Danielle once this divorce is finalized. So despite all of the ups and downs, highs and lows, they seem to be on solid ground. I liked what I saw from Owen, I gotta say. That took us to the 22-minute mark of the 42-minute in the City reunion, and the rest of the time we talk about Kyle and Amanda. And let me just say, after I finished watching this episode, I was like, are we never going to have to rehash relationship dynamics about Kyle and Amanda ever again on the show? We've been doing it for 10 years. 10 years, and this might finally be the end. We could really only hope, but we're still going to discuss it today. Amanda brings forward these new cheating allegations, and it reminds me of Katie and Tom Schwartz, where there was also always this lack of trust between Tom and Katie. Katie had a problem with Tom's drinking because stories would come out, and Tom's response always would be, well, I don't remember. I don't recall that, but I had been drinking a lot. So to say definitively that it didn't happen, I wouldn't want to lie or whatever. The Bravo brain, the filing cabinet in my brain just goes back to that time. And Amanda says, not only for the first time on camera, it seemed like for the first time ever. Kyle's reaction to this and being very surprised. I feel like she doesn't talk to Kyle all that much outside of filming anyways, but I could be wrong. Amanda says, someone recently told her that Kyle had been with another woman while they were already married. She says the information came through a friend of a friend who claimed it was 100% true. And Kyle's like, what? He's very confused by this. It's incredibly speculatory to bring that to a reunion. And I almost feel like Amanda did it to lessen the heat on her because she's seen Kyle have this 180, with the fandom. Even Georgina says it. You were about to be canceled before all of this stuff happened. I just feel like it wasn't necessary information. Nobody is sitting looking at Kyle and Amanda and being like, oh, I wonder why they're no longer together. Amanda has a lot of valid reasons on why she no longer wants to be with Kyle. It just feels like now she's pulling out all of these skeletons in the closet that the audience maybe did not know, to take the heat off her a little bit. And I didn't love that. Then we hear about Kyle bringing people over the night before Amanda officially moved out. And Kyle kind of cops to what we've been saying. I've been saying he was doing things out of spite. And he says, yeah, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in the house. I didn't want to be surrounded by what was going on between the two of us. And Amanda said that was the decision that really led her to believe that they could not reconcile. She also shares that they hadn't had sex in 4 years because she was struggling with depression and she often felt used by Kyle, didn't feel an emotional connection. And Kyle even says, it was as soon as we got married. After the wedding, we hit this weird phase. And I remember during one of the Summer House reunions, Amanda, the first time she really opened up about her depression, she talks about having the post-wedding blues. And how her and Kyle were working through that. And it just kind of feels like, for 10 years, we've been on this roller coaster, but I do remember that conversation happening shortly after they got married. But Kyle feels like the goalpost with what Amanda's grievances are kept moving in their relationship. First he was a workaholic, and now he's an alcoholic, and then it's something else. And then she says, Kyle gave me a book, How to Date an Entrepreneur. That should have been required reading before Amanda and Kyle got married, not after. Okay? There should have been pop quizzes. If she failed them, they should not have gotten married. And one thing that actually continued to stick with me, having watched all 10 seasons of Summer Houses every single summer when we get to the first weekend of filming, it's something along the lines of Kyle saying, I can't wait to reconnect with Amanda over this summer. Our marriage has been in a rocky place. And whether it was because he was working too much while he wasn't filming with Loverboy or now DJing or whatever, it almost feels like this work, their reality TV show, was the one time a year where they actually had to sit down and talk and confront things, albeit on camera. Was Summer House the only time that Kyle and Amanda spent uninterrupted time together in their relationship? Work through their issues instead of disappearing into their separate routines? Without that annual reset, who knows what their relationship would have looked like? Amanda also talks about the reasons why she was not able to trust Kyle. And I think we can definitively say whenever the cheating happened before Kyle and Amanda got engaged, she never recovered from that. And that's her, that's her right. I'm not going to sit here and say that she needed to forgive Kyle. I just think some recognition on not being able to could have saved both of them from this heartache. And Amanda says, even when we were together, we would go out on New Year's Eve. We're leaving the bar and you're blowing raspberries on somebody's neck. I can only imagine what you're doing while I'm not there. Valid. If you're Amanda and you're constantly getting DMs and this is the thing that you see in person, it's like the things are just starting to compound. But my husband actually came through with another good point. He said, okay, well, Amanda, let's look at how you and Wes acted in front of everybody during season 10. Wes consoling her, hugging her, running his fingers through her hair, kissing the side of his head or her head. Who's to say how they would have acted behind closed doors? It's like, if you want to make that argument, there's going to be those questions when it comes to your relationship with Wes. Now, two wrongs don't make a right, but I think it's clear that they were both so unhappy in their marriage that they didn't really care about boundaries, honestly. They also spent a lot of time in this reunion talking about fights that happened between Kyle and Amanda. And the truth is, none of us will ever fully know what went down in Kyle and Amanda's apartment, what type of screaming matches they would or would not get in. We've seen Kyle say some incredibly hurtful things to Amanda on camera. So I have no reason to doubt that those types of moments happen privately too. But I also don't think Amanda is completely passive in this cycle that they have described. The season, we saw moments where she would poke and prod at Kyle in much quieter ways. He's very reactive, and it seemed like she kind of knew which buttons to push to get him to explode. And that's actually one place where I wish Andy would have pushed a little bit harder. Holding Kyle accountable for calling Amanda names is important, okay? I don't want you to twist what I'm saying, but relationships rarely break down because of one person's sole contribution to this cycle. Unless, there's the deeper, abusive relationships. That's not what I'm talking about here. But the other moment that surprised me was Amanda kind of laughing off the fact that she almost hit Kyle, or at least that's a story that Kyle presents. He says, I tried to wake you up one time to walk the dogs and you almost hit me. Did you forget about it? And she kind of scoffs. And I don't know if that is discomfort or embarrassment, maybe just not wanting to revisit it. But I do think moments like that deserve to be taken seriously regardless of who's involved. So lastly, I want to talk about the cast's reaction to the scene between Amanda, Sierra, and Wes. Danielle said it was weird. Which, like, the cast reaction was very similar to the audience's reaction, where it's easy to look at things from a certain lens now that we know Amanda and Wes are together. But, you know, they always had this weird flirty energy. I think everybody in the summer house needs to take a step back with the flirtation level. That includes Jesse. That includes Sierra. If Wes and Amanda were going to be there this summer, I would say them too. You know, everybody's touchy-feely, kissy, huggy, lovey-dovey. But obviously, as Danielle said, diabolical to see the three of them together. I am naive and I believe everything that everybody says ever. You guys know this about me. So I believe Amanda when she says nothing physical was happening between her and West at that point. I do believe that she was happy that, you know, the three amigos could be together again, because there were 2 long years where Sierra and West were not friends with each other, on bad terms. And I don't want to say that Amanda was in the middle of it, because at that point she was definitely closer with Sierra, but, you know, the dynamic certainly affected everybody in the house, not just Amanda. So I can understand where she would be excited that that tension, that dynamic between Sierra and West no longer existed. But I also just think it's naive to say there wasn't some type of feeling there. We all felt it, and I think the In the City cast felt it as well. Even if it was a premature feeling, it was a feeling. I mean, like I said, I can't believe we've been doing this for 6 months straight, and they're filming right now. It's like, I can't imagine how these people feel. I can't imagine what we're going to talk about with Kyle when it's like, it has nothing to do with Amanda. It's a new era. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for us. And we're grateful for it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of MPT. If you want more bonus episodes every single week and you get MPT a day early and ad-free on the Patreon, the link is in the show notes below. If you have not left your review, a little 5-star boop boop, a little love you like assist, now is the time to do so. I always appreciate it. If not, I still, in fact, love you like assist, and I'll see you next week. Bye.